Good morning to you. It is Saturday, October 1st. Wow, it is October already, 2016. I'm Abby Huntsman. And breaking news from the campaign trail. New Fox polls show the fallout from the first debate as Donald Trump has one question for Hillary Clinton.
Can you promise that not one of the 5 people who were granted criminal immunity will ever be allowed to serve in a Clinton administration?
Wow, complete coverage of the presidential race and where it stands, that is straight ahead.
And out on the campaign trail, Hillary Clinton begs for millennials to vote for her, please, but behind closed doors, she trashes them. Listen to this.
There's just a deep desire to believe that, we can have free college, free health care. They're children of the Great Recession, and they are living in their parents' basement.
Yeah, she's a little different in private from what she looks like in public. The new Hillary Clinton audio tape just uncovered ahead.
And President Obama literally waits for no one except former President Bill Clinton, apparently. Remember, even if it takes a while for Tucker Carlson to get to the studio, mornings are better with friends.
Oh, happy Saturday morning from New York City. The great Ed Henry is on the couch
Great to
with
be
us
with you guys.
this weekend.
Hi, Abby.
Hey, Ed, good to
How's it
see
going?
you.
Up from Washington, D.C., bringing a little sparkle for the nation's capital.
Bring a little
I love it. You can
news.
feel it. You can feel the politics when Ed Henry walks in the room.
That's for sure. We begin this morning with the race to the White House and brand new polls in that contest.
While pundits claimed the first debate was a disaster for Trump, new numbers show the race is still pretty much a dead heat.
And Garrett Tenney is live for us in Washington this morning with all of the breaking details. Good morning, Garrett.
Good morning, Tucker, Ed, and Abby. And there's a little bit of sparkle here for Hillary Clinton, but any way you slice it, this is still an extremely close race. After the first debate in the latest Fox News polls, looking at a 4-way race, Hillary Clinton jumped 2 points post-debate, and now she's leading Donald Trump by 3 points among likely voters. A few weeks ago, she only led by 1 point. Now, Trump holds steady at 40%, and he's still within the polls' margin of error, so it's still a very close race overall. Clinton performs even better, though, when likely voters were asked who'd they choose in a head-to-head matchup between the two candidates. There, she leads Trump 49 to 45%. Last night, Donald Trump was in Michigan, a state that he's trying to turn from blue to red in November, and he laid into Hillary Clinton for her email scandals and what he claims would be a corrupt presidency.
Can you promise that not one of the 5 people who were granted criminal immunity will ever be allowed to serve in a Clinton administration if that ever happens? Oh, would that be bad?
Hillary Clinton is also hitting the swing states hard, and yesterday in the key state of Florida, she continued to go after Trump for his attacks on former Miss Universe Alicia Machado.
I mean, really, who gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning to engage in a Twitter attack against a former Miss Universe?
The next presidential debate is a little over a week away, and the Trump campaign says it's now preparing to unleash new attacks on Hillary Clinton for her history of dismissing and even targeting women who were involved with her husband, former President Bill Clinton.
Whoa.
Ed, Tucker, and Abby.
Look forward to that. Garrett Tenney from Washington. Great to see you.
Thank you, Garrett.
Hillary Clinton asking a fair question, right? The New York Post is doing the same thing. It says it's got tape on Donald Trump's mouth. Donald, get off Twitter. This is something where he had the momentum in this race.
We talked about that last weekend, how it was going like this. You had Hillary Clinton going down, you had Donald Trump going up, and so much was relying on these debates. And could he control himself? And now we're talking about their past with women. How did we get here, Tucker? How did we get here?
It's a great question, and it's a sad question, and it's not something that I'm going to defend, other than to say this. When you see Trump speak and you read his tweets and you see him on this show and you talk to him in person, as we all have, he's exactly the same in every context. Trump is who he looks like. You know who Trump is.
It's authentic.
It is, whether you like it or not. You know, you're repulsed by it, you're attracted to it, whatever. It's real. Hillary Clinton, totally different in person. And we have more evidence of that this morning. So we have a new tape. This was leaked, I believe, from a fundraiser she was doing with her supporters exactly
during
the
primaries. Tough primary with Bernie Sanders.
And she's asked apparently in this fundraiser, like, what is going on with Bernie Sanders? Why are the young people voting for him? And she responds this way.
there's just a deep desire to believe that, you know, we can have free college, free health care, that what we've done hasn't gone far enough and we just need to, you know, go as far as, you know, Scandinavia, whatever that means. They're children of the Great Recession, and they are living in their parents' basement. If you're feeling that you're consigned to, you know, being a barista or, you know, some other job that doesn't pay a lot and doesn't have much of a ladder of opportunity attached to it, then the idea that maybe, just maybe, you could be part of a political revolution is pretty appealing.
So Hillary Clinton is back on the trail this
What's
coming
wrong
Monday.
with being a barista, by the way?
Yeah, barista's
Some people love that job.
She
It's a
has
good job.
total contempt for her supporters. That's the point. If you're not a hedge
And
fund
for Bernie
manager,
Sanders, by the way.
Exactly. If you're not part of the establishment, Hillary Clinton doesn't like you. She doesn't think you have legitimate concerns. She thinks you're a loser who's whining from your mom's basement.
That
She
was in
just said it.
February, but
Yeah.
this coming Monday, real time, she's on the trail again, I believe in Ohio with Bernie Sanders. They've done this before. They were just in New Hampshire a couple days ago. Be all smiles, hugging. They were posting photos on Instagram the other day. They're pals now. But in private, she's saying his supporters, they're living in mom's basement because they're losers, number one. And number two, isn't it fascinating that in these fundraisers, Hillary Clinton tells you what she really thinks. So your point about Trump a minute ago, where he's authentic, and if you love him or hate him, he'll say it.
But what's so
she
infuriating?
says something different privately.
What she should have learned from 4 years ago when this happened with Mitt Romney with the 47% comment. We live in a world where everyone has got some sort of recording device on them. You got to know that people are listening at all times. You would think you would have learned that from 4 years ago.
Well, why do you think she's gotten 100% of the donations given by Fortune 100 CEOs?
Right.
Because they feel threatened by her? No. Because she, in private, when she's only with rich people, sucks up to them assiduously, as she did in her speeches to Goldman. And then she goes out on the trail and is like, I'm going to fight for you.
Right,
but the only people she really identifies with are the people she's been sucking up to.
Well,
for
that's
the
a
last
good point,
15
because you
years.
think about the deplorables comment that she did make about Donald Trump supporters, and here she is hitting on Bernie Sanders supporters. So who are you fighting for? It's sort of like a 10-20% group of people
So she's
there.
called half of Donald Trump supporters a basket of deplorables.
Yeah.
And now she's saying, and she used the phrase in the word half again, half of Sanders supporters basically are living in the basement and are losers. So that's about half the country now that she's saying, I don't care.
Well, you
about
wonder, how did she make $250 million in the last 15 years with no real job?
Yeah.
By sucking up to people like this. She's good at it.
But she's
a
saying
toady.
in private, all they want is free college. That's ridiculous. But on Monday with Bernie Sanders, she's going to talk about how they have a free college plan. She loves it. It's amazing.
You can't make it up.
It's amazing.
You know what starts tonight, though, you guys, which I'm very excited about?
You all right?
Are you
I'm
okay
just
there?
choking on my revulsion. I'm sorry. All better now. Thank you, Abby.
Well, SNL starts tonight. Alec Baldwin is playing Donald Trump. Now, we all know Kate McKinnon. She's fabulous as Hillary Clinton. But some of the media are saying that they're really excited that Alec Baldwin is going to take down
that
Donald
SNL
Trump.
has done this with Republicans before. We've got a montage of what they've done with Republican candidates. Watch this.
You know, Hillary and I don't agree on everything.
I believe that diplomacy should be the cornerstone of any foreign policy.
And I can see Russia from my house.
Al Gore's gonna win. I'm not gonna do it.
What do you mean you're not gonna do it?
Not gonna do it.
You are too gonna do it.
Not gonna do
You
it.
are gonna do it. Never underestimate a Bush. We're sneaky.
By the way, hey, what's your salary as president? $400,000. $400,000. So yeah, I mean, what's the deal? 400,000. 400,000. Yeah, that's what I pay my cats. Okay. Now, why don't you go sit down before I beat you to death with my paycheck?
Jason Sudeikis was very good at Mitt Romney, though. You got
It's good and it's totally legitimate, obviously.
I'm not sure SNL was beating up on Republicans. I think they were quoting them. I mean, Sarah Palin said that.
No, it's totally right. Now, though, you're hearing some people in the comedy community say this is too important an election to be funny.
Yeah.
The comedy needs to serve a political purpose. It ought to be explicit propaganda in order to stop Donald Trump from winning. And that's when it stops being comedy and starts being political indoctrination.
Right. An agenda.
When did that happen?
It becomes an agenda.
It's so scary that you have some A-listers in Hollywood paying, up to $10 million for these bunkers they say they might move into if Donald Trump wins. I mean, this is sort of the reality.
No, but I thought comedy was supposed to challenge people in power.
Right.
Not suck up to them and protect them from a populist challenge, which is what they're doing.
By the way, when you see Mitt Romney, good news for Donald Trump. Romney won the first debate in 2012.
Good point.
It
So
didn't really matter.
did John Kerry, by the way.
True.
All right, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on the show. We do have some headlines, though, to get to this morning, starting with the Fox News alert And more riots sparked after surveillance video is released of the shooting death of an unarmed black man. This video from the El Cajon police shows Alfredo Longo pulling a smoking device from his pocket and taking a, quote, shooting stance before being shot dead by police. Protesters taking to the streets again overnight. Longo was a refugee from Uganda with a lengthy criminal history who dodged deportation 2 times. And now to weather. Fierce winds and rain battering the Caribbean islands as Hurricane Matthew moves toward Jamaica and Cuba. The hurricane now slightly weakening to a Category 4. The winds are already deadly at up to 155 miles per hour, killing a 16-year-old boy on the island of St. Vincent. Hurricane Matthew also churning up some major waves. The storm still has the potential to hit the United States. Our own meteorologist Rick Reichmuth will have the latest on the storm's track later on this hour. And election officials on high alert, now increasing efforts to block hackers from getting into state election databases. The Department of Homeland Security revealing that voter registration systems have been targeted in more than 20 states, much more than had previously been acknowledged. Some lawmakers are blaming Russia for the hacks, but the federal government has yet to provide solid proof of the allegation. And the only person that can keep a president from takeoff, well, a former president. That is President Obama looking impatient in the doorway of Air Force One at Jerusalem Airport. The president calling for Bill Clinton to get on board so they could get back to Washington. They were both there to speak at the funeral for Shimon Peres. And just a reminder of how Bill Clinton loves to just take.
They call it
time.
Clinton time, and he even does it to President Obama.
Look how annoyed, and Obama's always late too.
Yeah.
But look how annoyed Obama is.
Come on, Bill, let's go.
Come on.
It was great.
It's like my dad calling me. Come on.
Well, Hillary Clinton with a bounce in the polls after that first debate. But does that translate into a victory in November? What history tells us next.
Plus, a viral video star takes on Black Lives Matter. All he needed to do was put up 2 signs. Joey Salads joins us with the result of his latest social experiment. That's ahead. Stay tuned.
Get the out of here with that. What's wrong with it?
All lives matter, bro. It's this guy.
Welcome back. If you can believe it, 38 days now until the election. And as we just showed you, Fox News polls show Hillary now with a 3-point lead over Donald Trump in a 4-way race.
And in the latest head-to-head, Hillary Clinton has turned a 1-point deficit into a 5-point lead. Here to break it down, what does that mean? Co-founder and publisher of Real Clear Politics, Tom Bevan. Good morning, Tom. I wonder, when you have the thing that's fascinating about your site is the Real Clear Politics average of all these polls to try to make sense of the data that's streaming in. This Fox poll suggests Hillary Clinton got at least a modest bump from the first debate. How does that shake up your average?
It definitely moved the needle on our 2-way average because, as you just mentioned, she got a more significant bounce in the 2-way, and so it bumped it up to over 3%. But in the 4-way race, it didn't move it at all. Actually, it was right in line with where some of the other polls were, and so the 4-way average didn't move. I think it's about 2.9% right now. So minimal effect on the 2-way and no effect on the 4-way race.
All right, let's dig a little bit deeper into the independent vote, because we know in a general election, these are the votes that really matter here. Trump has always done well with independent votes. You could see here, though, 41% to 29%. What impact do you think the debates had on the independent votes? Are there still a lot of people just waiting to see the future debates?
Yeah, I think that's what this showed. I mean, Trump's number in the 4-way race stayed solid. It was 40% 2 weeks ago. It's 40% now in the Fox poll. And he maintained a 12-point lead with independents. So it doesn't look like independents moved. It doesn't look like he necessarily won over any more independents, but he didn't necessarily lose ground. I'll be interested to see these battleground states because he's been doing very well with independents. He'd made up a lot of ground with independents in places like Ohio and North Carolina and Nevada over the last few weeks. So I'll be interested to see in those key battleground states where their independents moved at all.
And we also asked in this Fox poll, what's the biggest motivation for you voting? 57% fear the other candidate wins. 39% talk about enthusiasm for the candidate. Wow is right, as Abby says. I mean, usually it's about get your folks to the polls. You want them to be enthusiastic about your own candidacy. Instead, this appears to be a race about the other person is a heck of a lot worse than I am.
And it's been that way the whole time, Ed. You're right. I mean, we have a historic election in the sense that both candidates are so unliked, generate such strong feelings from the other side. We've seen this number repeat itself over and over and over again. And it does. It looks like fear is a factor in. And again, whichever candidate is being talked about, whichever candidate is in the news, usually is suffering in the polls. And certainly Donald Trump this week, with the debate performance and then the rest this week, has been in the news quite a bit. And I don't think it's helped this case necessarily.
Right. So after this first debate, we've seen Hillary Clinton get a slight bump. But you really have to look at history to understand what this all means and what the impact really is, bigger picture. You look at in 2004, John Kerry, after the first debate, erased a 7 percentage point deficit, lost the election at the end of the day by 2.46 percentage points. Also, Mitt Romney 4 years ago erased a 4 percentage point deficit, losing the election ultimately by 3.86 percentage points. That's where they were after the first debate. You see that at the end of the day, it was a different story.
Yeah, and part of the reason is they were incumbents and they had bad first debates, and it closed the race. But the rest of the story is they both bounced back and had better debates in the second and third debates, and so that's where we stand. So it's hard to say, again, how this is going to work out. I don't think Donald Trump disqualified himself in any way, so he's still in this race and he still has a chance to make the case. But obviously, when you're standing in front of 84 million people, it's a missed opportunity if you're not able to win some people over to your side. It doesn't look like he did that in the first debate, so we'll have to see whether he's able to do that in future debates.
Yeah, there's a choice you'd rather win than lose, I think.
Right,
probably.
but it seems like Tom's bottom line is that despite a rough week, Donald Trump is still very much in this. It's interesting. Tom Bevan, we appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you, Tom.
You bet. Thank you.
Maybe this wasn't such a bad thing.
What would you do if you were elected about Aleppo? About Aleppo.
And what is Aleppo?
You're kidding.
No.
Harry Johnson was not kidding, and you just saw in that poll among independents, he's getting 21% of independents despite that, and he just got a big endorsement. We'll tell you about it.
Plus, a viral video star takes on Black Lives Matter, and all he needed was 2 signs. Joey Salads joins us with the results of his latest social experiment. That is just ahead.
Get the out of here with that.
What's wrong with it?
Every day you got to get the out of here with that.
All lives matter, bro. It's this guy.
Some quick headlines for you this morning. Officials still have not interviewed the engineer who was driving that train that crashed Thursday morning spectacularly in New Jersey. His name is Thomas Gallagher, and he's still recovering in the hospital as a mangled mess blocks investigators from a data recorder that might help them figure out what went wrong in the first place. Bring the latest on that story. Meanwhile, lawsuits are likely to pour in against New Jersey Transit. They'll likely center on the train's lack of automatic brake technology. One woman was killed. More than 100 commuters were injured, some of them badly. And the government is giving up control of the Internet's address book this morning. After 47 years, a California-based nonprofit will take over the job of sorting the Internet's IP addresses. It will become an international organization, not an American one. Thanks, Ed.
All right, well, known for his viral social experiments, filmmaker Joey Salads is no stranger to controversy. In his latest video, he takes on the Black Lives Matter movement, starting off by holding a Black Lives Matter sign in a predominantly white neighborhood on Staten Island. Watch this.
You support Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, I
do. You do?
Yep. I support all lives matter.
All lives matter. Yeah. You support Black Lives Matter, sir?
I will not support them.
No? Why not? Okay, he says he thinks they're all fake.
Then he went to a predominantly African-American neighborhood on Staten Island and held a sign reading, "All lives matter." Here's what happened.
Get the out of here with that.
What's wrong with it?
Every day you got to get the out of here with that.
All lives matter, bro. It's this guy.
Oof.
Wow. Social media personality and filmmaker Joey Salads joins us now. Mr. Salads, it's great to see you. So what did you learn from this?
I didn't really learn anything
because it was all pretty much expected by the way what you see on Facebook and the news with how these Black Lives Matter supporters react. This was all.
So you expected the violence you got?
I completely expected the entire video.
But talk to us about, because we saw those videos there, from your experience being on the ground, how different was the reaction when you were in a white neighborhood and a black neighborhood? That was really interesting.
In the white neighborhood, I wasn't really expecting that good of a reaction for the people who didn't support Black Lives Matter, because their responses were pretty educated. Nobody really got mad. They were just saying, I support all lives matter. I don't like to support just Black Lives Matter. And they were even saying, a couple of them said, don't segregate. Don't segregate. Don't specifically specify Black Lives Matter. It's all lives, because everybody's affected by everything. It's actually, when you look at the facts, it's not really a black problem.
And not the case in the other neighborhood.
In the other neighborhood, they act on emotion.
So how do you think you bring people together? When you see the video, it seems like it's going to be pretty hard.
Oh, it is hard, because especially what Black Lives Matter is doing is that they're segregating. They're creating a greater divide that you know hasn't been seen in the last few years, and it's just getting worse and worse.
So people disagree, and that, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's fine. The part where it becomes not fine and ominous and a threat to civilization is when people substitute violence for argument. Did anybody in the second neighborhood say, you know, I think you're wrong and here's why, or did you just get physical right away?
There was one guy who just said, get out of here. For your own safety.
Well, that's not much of an argument. That's a threat.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't think he was so much threatening me, because he was saying, he's like, just get out of here, because people in this neighborhood, they're crazy. It's not safe to be here.
He was looking out for you.
He was looking out for me, because he knew how.
There's a fine line between a warning and a threat, I would say.
Yeah.
What made you want to do this?
Basically to prove a point, because the media likes to continuously say that the Black Lives Matter protesters are peaceful, but half the time they're rioting, looting. I saw a video online a couple days ago where they attacked a guy for simply just wearing a Trump hat saying make America great again, and they all jumped him and they all attacked him. And yet the media and Facebook and the BuzzFeeds of the world are trying to paint them as peaceful protesters. Meanwhile, they're not. And even after I put this video up, a lot of the Black Lives Matter supporters, they came out saying, oh, we're peaceful, we're peaceful. I'm like, yeah, how many times have you guys burnt cities down because of your riots?
If you flip this around, there would be a Justice Department investigation into it right now. I mean, period. Done.
Joey Salads, we appreciate you coming in. Is it at Joey Salads? People can find the video on Twitter, at Joey Salads. Thank you.
Thanks, Joey.
Thanks.
Why talk about the issues when you can sling mud like this?
He called this woman Miss Piggy. Then he called her Miss Housekeeping because she was Latina.
So should Donald Trump respond in kind? Would that help him win, or is it a losing strategy? That's ahead.
Plus, former Major League pitcher Curt Schilling bringing the heat to Elizabeth Warren.
People would recognize that there's another choice, and that there would be an examination of me and Bill Weld as who we are and what we've done, and not based on that.
I think I could stand up there for the whole debate and not say anything and emerge as a leader.
Oh, wait, what just happened?
I love how Casey pulls back. Like, oh, he just stuck his tongue out.
That's part of that interview. That's what you said. You prepare so much for those interviews with politicians, you could never prepare for that moment.
No, you never could. So Chicago is one of Hillary Clinton's 18 or 19 official hometowns.
Wait, not that many.
And the big, not that many, but you know, more than a few. And the big paper, of course, in Chicago, Chicago Tribune, one of the oldest in the country, they have not endorsed Hillary Clinton. Instead, they're endorsing Mr. Aleppo himself, Gary Johnson.
It's pretty remarkable. It's sort of like, have they been paying attention? I almost think they're punking us, and maybe that's funny, and maybe that's a good thing, because they're saying, we're just not going to accept the two that we have to pick to endorse. Like USA Today was worse. You know, they basically said, we've never taken sides in a presidential election. We're going to take sides. We're going to say Donald Trump is dangerous and you should not vote for him, but we're not going to endorse Hillary Clinton. Like, what?
But USA Today is one of those papers that you forget even exists till you're checking out of a hotel room.
No, that's...
And it's like sitting outside your door and you're like, oh, that's still around.
Totally
true. But I don't think endorsements, I think it's, we've proven
You're just
so far.
offending everyone who likes 50-word news stories.
You're totally right, Abby. That's actually the smart. I mean, how many people's, I used to be an editorial writer, but let's be honest, how many people's opinions are affected by editorials? Very few. But what I think is interesting is that Gary Johnson is not going to win.
Right.
You can make fun of him. I enjoy doing so. But he really is her Ross Perot.
Yeah, he's having an impact.
Oh, big time.
When we showed the graphic a minute ago about independent voters, and Abby was talking about their influence, and Hillary Clinton had something like 25 or 26% of independent. Gary Johnson had 21%. Exactly. He was almost beating Hillary Clinton among the people who decide elections.
And who are they? They're all the young people who supported Bernie over Hillary. 80-20 in the primaries. Many of them are not going to Hillary. They're going to Gary Johnson for the marijuana thing.
Which is so interesting because you hear him on foreign policy, and as you said, I mean, you can't make this stuff up, whether it's the Aleppo thing or not being able to name a foreign leader that he respects or
he said that he stopped smoking marijuana before the race, right?
I think he's been doing edibles. But the point is...
He's a politician. Come on.
I mean, honestly, what is the point of being a libertarian if you have to care about where Aleppo is? Isn't that kind of the whole point? I'm a libertarian. I don't care.
All right, we do have another story that we've been following very closely, and this is a sad one. 2 sisters were found dead during a tropical vacation. They died from excess water in their lungs and their brain. That's 37-year-old Anna and 42-year-old Robin Corky. They're from Minnesota. They were found unresponsive in their luxury hotel room in the Seychelles when a staff member tried to wake them but could not. According to the autopsy, Anna also had fluid in her brain. But investigators say both bodies showed no signs of violence. Medical experts say the fluid can be caused by drug overdoses or a viral infection. Just so sad. And leaked audio showing tension between the Obama administration over its failed attempt to stop the Syrian civil war. Here is John Kerry behind closed doors speaking to Syrian civilians.
I think you're looking at 3 people, 4 people in the administration who have all argued for your support. Now I've lost the other.
That discussion happening last week during the United Nations General Assembly here in New York, where Syrians left convinced that the U.S. was backing down in the region. And former Red Sox pitcher Curt Schilling is bringing the heat to Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, saying he is ready to run against her in 2018.
I'm serious about it. I'm thinking about, listen, one of the things about a senator that people need to understand, a senator takes the constituents' concerns to D.C. It's not about politicking the state.
6-time All-Star Major League pitcher talking to our own Neil Cavuto also came to Trump's defense in the wake of his attacks on former Miss Universe Alicia Machado. Schilling saying, quote, "Last time I checked, nothing he said got 4 people killed in Benghazi, so I'm okay with that." And then there's this, a smashing rampage inside an Apple store, and it is all caught on camera. The angry customer taking a metal ball and cracking phone after phone. That's in France. He was upset after the company refused to give him a refund. He was eventually arrested, and the damage was estimated at $56,000. Crazy people out there.
In France, I think he was making a statement against technology. It's a tech on out. All right, well, meanwhile, Hurricane Matthew is churning in the Atlantic, but it could cause pretty significant problems here in the United States. Rick Reichmuth has been tracking it since it was a raindrop and has the latest for us.
That's how this works. That's what I do. Maybe impacting the U.S. Certainly have to watch it. A little bit too early to say that it will. But last night, it became a Category 5 hurricane that hasn't happened anywhere in the Atlantic Basin since 2007. So a really monster storm. Places that do have to watch out for this over the next couple of days: Jamaica, Cuba, and Haiti. So this storm is going to the west. It will make a northward turn later on today and into tomorrow, and all of our model guidance brings this up there somewhere in that area, and we're going to see a lot of damage across these areas right here. We can't say exactly where. What happens after that is very interesting. Here's our kind of, some of the models continue to pull this towards the north, and then is where we have a little bit more uncertainty. Here's the official cone, and you see, probably seeing it weaken a little bit, but a little bit of uncertainty in that as well. Florida, you'll notice, eastern shore of Florida could be watching this. Some of the models pull this closer to the U.S. shores, and some a little bit offshore as well. 5 days. This is Thursday, where we're here somewhere across the Bahamas, so we have a lot of time to talk about this, guys. Probably next weekend, if we see impacts for the U.S., at least into the Mid-Atlantic and
next weekend.
Next weekend.
All right, mark your calendars.
There you go.
Thank you.
You bet.
Well, as Trump and Hillary square off over Trump's treatment of women, is Hillary's treatment of women also fair game in this election?
Plus, protesting the national anthem is so last month. Now another big-name athlete taking a stand against our troops. Those details are next. Good morning. We are back with some quick headlines. An NBA star blatantly disrespecting our West Point cadets. Joakim Noah of the New York Knicks skipping the team's annual training camp dinner at the academy because it conflicts with his anti-war views. Noah claims he would just be, quote, too uncomfortable in that environment. And here's how not to make friends with your favorite baseball player. That is Giants outfielder Angel Pagan body slamming a rogue but friendly fan, holding him down until security arrives. Tucker, on that note, over to you.
Don't try that at home, Abby. Thank you. Hillary Clinton went after Donald Trump hard over his alleged mistreatment of women during the first presidential debate. In case you missed it, here it is.
One of the worst things he said was about a woman in a beauty contest. He loves beauty contests, supporting them and hanging around them. And he called this woman Miss Piggy. Then he called her Miss Housekeeping because she was Latina. Donald, she has a name.
Where did you find
her
this?
name
Where
is
did you find
Alicia
this?
Machado.
Where did you find
and
it?
Donald Trump responding to all that on Twitter, writing this, using Alicia M. in the debate as a paragon of virtue just shows that crooked Hillary suffers from bad judgment. Hillary was set up by a con. He wrote that well after 3 in the morning. Now, the Trump campaign reportedly telling surrogates Hillary has drawn first blood. Bill Clinton's alleged past treatment of women, not even alleged, he's admitted it, and Hillary's complicity in attacking his accusers is now fair game. Molly Hemingway is a sober analyst of politics. She's also a political commentator at The Federalist and one of our favorite guests. Molly, it's great to see you this morning. So
great to see you.
The Trump people make a reasonable point, which is she's holding herself out there as a defender of all women, and yet she attacked inconvenient women, women who threatened her husband's political career. Is that legitimate for Trump to bring up?
Oh, certainly. I mean, it's actually kind of interesting that she would want to go there given her own past. This is a woman who personally hired her former colleague Jack Palladino as a private investigator during the 1992 Clinton presidential campaign so that he could smear Jennifer Flowers. She was a woman who had had a long-time affair with Bill Clinton and had gone public with it. He sent a memo to the campaign about how the goal of the campaign should be to smear her, destroy her reputation. You know, that was her former colleague that she had hired. She also authorized her 2 law firm partners to bring in every single woman on a long list of names of women who had canoodled with Bill Clinton, let's say, and to sort of threaten them and intimidate them into silence. And this is a campaign that she has been part of going back decades. The idea that if we're going to be thinking about people who smear women as a legitimate campaign issue, and we wouldn't talk about all the things we know about Hillary Clinton's involvement in this issue, is mind-boggling.
Yeah, and another example of her taking sides against the weak and vulnerable. I mean, of course, Juanita Broaddrick's much weaker than she is. But why wouldn't Trump have said when she brought up the beauty queen thing, like, who cares? You know, the country's in serious trouble. The world is collapsing, and you're bringing up some 20-year-old exchange I had with a beauty pageant contestant. Why wouldn't he just dismiss it like that?
Well, I can't speak to that exactly, but the media have decided to pile on this issue, and they want to make this about war on women messaging. That was something that was very popular 4 years ago, 6 years ago. And I think for Donald Trump, he's saying, no, this is not a good example of that type of story. For him, he's saying, you know, he has a major campaign theme of saying that our country should have a different idea about how we vet immigrants. The woman who's being used as a surrogate for the Clinton campaign to smear Donald Trump has a history of problems, including involvement with a Mexican drug lord. She was accused of running a getaway car in a murder spree. She was accused of threatening to murder a Venezuelan judge. You know, she has all sorts of problems, and so I'm not sure.
Right.
I think what he wants to say is this isn't necessarily something that helps the Hillary Clinton campaign theme of war on women. This is something that helps his campaign theme of the need to have a better immigration policy.
So the press exists to take the side of the underdog against the powerful, to keep power in check as a bulwark against overreach. And yet you see them in this campaign strongly on the side of political donors, hedge fund managers, and of course the Democratic Party. Isn't that a basic realignment of what the press is supposed to be doing?
I mean, it's something they've actually kind of been doing for a while. And in fact, this is another sort of larger campaign theme issue, which usually they say you shouldn't, as a candidate, go against the media, go against the major media messaging. And Donald Trump is saying, no, he wants to do that. I think we have seen more groupthink and collusion by media in this campaign than even what we saw 4 years ago and 8 years ago, which was already pretty bad. But yeah, the media are all part of this elite establishment. They want to control narratives. They want to control who gets elected. And I think part of what you're seeing with the groundswell of support for Donald Trump is just a complete rejection of that, a complete anger at that type of control that's being exerted on people.
I mean, because the media is not supposed to take the side of the establishment, because then who's watching out for everybody else? It's ominous. Molly Hemingway, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks a lot for that clear-eyed assessment. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
One Gold Star mom had this question for President Obama at a recent town hall event. Watch.
Why do you still refuse to use the term Islamic terrorist?
Truth of the matter is that this is an issue that has been sort of manufactured, and that's a slippery slope.
Yeah, don't ask questions. It's dangerous. Well, how did that mom feel about the president's response? We're going to ask her because she's joining us live. Stay tuned for that. Also, got a big show still ahead this morning. Mike Huckabee's here, Judge Alex, Geraldo, Jesse Waters. The list goes on. Miss it at your peril. It's an unbelievable morning of news and insight. Stay with us. Well, it's Hispanic Heritage Month here on Fox and Friends Weekend, and we are glad to be joined by, drumroll please, Ed.
Fox News correspondent Brian Yennis sat down. Some very interesting people, and he joins us now with a closer look. Good to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Really happy to see you all always. You know, if you had told Ozzie Arue when he was a kid he'd end up running Tyler Perry's film studio, he would not have believed you. After all, in his first job at Warner Brothers, he was the guy who let people in through the front gates and told them where to park. But young Ozzie had the determination that anything was possible.
This is the home of Tyler Perry Studios. Tyler's saying is, here we grow again.
Last year, Tyler Perry, the prolific writer, director, actor, and producer, bought Fort McPherson, a former Army base, for $26 million from the city of Atlanta. A sprawling property of 330 acres, it's where Mr. Perry shoots all his movies and TV shows.
Hey, Jeremy, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing this morning?
When I drive into this studio every day, I'm reminded literally every single morning when I pull up to that security gate that was me. How's Tamika?
She's doing well. She's doing well.
I remember there were two people when I worked at Warner Brothers that did that every single day, and I remember how it made me feel. Those things touch me, and those are things that will always help me stay grounded. Take it easy, Jeremy. You too, man.
It's been a remarkable journey for Ozzie Arue. He grew up in Los Angeles, the second oldest of four. He learned about hard work when he lost his father at an early age.
Things were tough at times. My mother worked 2 and 3 jobs most of the time, you know, scrounging together $3 and $4 a day for my brother and I to have lunch money at school. Hey, bro. Was a big deal. The 5 of us are extremely close, I think, because of some of the struggles that we had growing up.
As a young man, Ozzie dreamed of one day being a homicide detective. A stellar candidate, he went to police headquarters to get his academy starting date, driving his mother's Honda. But his name wasn't on her car's insurance policy, an oversight that had consequences.
I was so crushed that I just slid my notebook across the table and said, maybe this just isn't for me. I've worked so hard all my life to do this, and if on a technicality this isn't happening for me, then I believe that God has another plan for me.
That plan would lead Ozzie to Warner Brothers and eventually to the set of a new comedy called Friends.
It was starting to blow up. So ultimately what I did was just keep the right people in and the wrong people out.
He did more than just watch the riffraff. He became a trusted confidant and a person who got things done.
One of them said to me at one point, you know, loyalty is something that you can't put a price on. See if the team's together, see if they can get together.
Soon, he was approached by Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt to be their personal assistant. Then came Ellen, and all along, he soaked up everything he could about the entertainment business, learning how to produce at the highest levels.
People used to say, Ozzie, you have a knack, you have that it factor for being a problem solver, and I think that being a problem solver is a big part in the producing process.
Finally, there was a trip to New York and a lunch date with a man who would one day change his life.
First of all, it was an ex-girlfriend who said, you know, you really need to hire this guy as your assistant. I'm like, nah, this guy. And he said something to me that offended me. He said, just let me spend some time with you and I'll get to know you and I'll be able to help you out a great deal. I'll learn what you like. And I thought, that's very presumptuous. It's very offensive for somebody to say to me in an interview. But it turns out He was just the most amazing assistant that I ever had.
So in front of a boardroom full of executive producers, he surprised everyone by offering Ozzy the keys to his kingdom, asking him to run his studio.
We'll be here. We will hear you. I'm a person that goes with my gut. If it feels right, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I wouldn't put somebody in that position just because they were my assistant or there to do my bidding. He didn't get here because he's lucky. He got here because he's good, he's smart, and he's talented.
I remember I went back, sat in my office, and I thought there is no chance in hell that I would ever let this man down.
All right.
Thanks, Mark.
I appreciate it.
Amazing. And Ozzy's recently been recognized for several awards, including the prestigious Latin Innovator Award, which recognizes innovators and trendsetters in the Latino community. And by the way, guys, he's really making Hollywood open their eyes. They're producing something like 100 TV episodes a year, something like 8 films. That's a huge amount of content.
All in Atlanta on the former Army base?
That's right.
That's amazing.
What an incredible story, Brian. Thanks for sharing that with us.
FoxNewsLatino.com for more, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, it's the longest allergy season we have seen in decades, believe it or not.
You can see part of the creed I like to follow behind me.
That was Hillary, sidelined by that cough again. We'll tell you what's going on.
And we're just getting started on this Saturday morning. Mike Huckabee, Judge Alex, Geraldo Rivera, and Jesse Waters are all joining us live. Stick with us. Good morning to you. It is Saturday, October 1st, 2016. Wow, we are in October already. I'm Abby Huntsman, and breaking news from the campaign trail. New Fox polls show the fallout from the first debate. Where do the two candidates stand, and what does it mean? Complete analysis straight ahead.
And out of the campaign trail, Hillary Clinton begs millennials to vote for her, but behind closed doors, she trashes them. Listen to this.
There's just a deep desire to believe that, you know, we can have free college, free health care. They're children of the Great Recession, and they are living in their parents' basement.
Hey, millennials, you're losers. The new Hillary Clinton audio tape just uncovered. We'll play it for you.
Subtle as always, Tucker. Pick a gender, any gender. One university telling its students you can choose your own pronoun. So one student crowning himself king of the campus. He's here live with his message and the backlash. Mornings are better with kings.
Oh, yeah. Good morning. It is 7 a.m. on the East Coast, and we have the great Ed Henry sitting in.
Good to see you both. Good to be back with you.
You're going to be here tomorrow, too.
Yeah, I'll be here tomorrow.
Okay, get comfortable.
Beautiful fall here in New York City.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it is. It's cold now, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Thank you, We got some headlines for you.
We do. We've
Abby,
got some
what's
headlines.
going on in the world?
We do. Thank you, Tucker. We do start with a Fox News alert, and more riots sparked after surveillance video is released of the shooting death of an unarmed black man. And this video from El Cajon police shows Alfred Alongo pulling a smoking device from his pocket and taking a, quote, shooting stance before being shot dead by police. Protesters taking to the streets again overnight. Alongo was a refugee from Uganda with a lengthy criminal history who dodged deportation twice. And to weather now, fierce winds and rain battering the Caribbean islands as Hurricane Matthew moves towards Jamaica and Cuba. The hurricane now slightly weakening to a Category 4. The winds are already deadly at up to 155 miles per hour and killing a 16-year-old boy on the islands of St. Vincent. Hurricane Matthew also churning up some major waves, and the storm still has the potential to hit the U.S. Meteorologist Rick Reitmuth will have the latest on the storm's track later this hour. And Oregon is open for business selling recreational marijuana. Tucker, you listen to this? That begins today. 26 retailers now licensed to take on new customers, many of them opening for business this morning. State regulators continue struggling over rules for product labels, but are moving forward anyway. Oregon voters approved medical marijuana back in 1998, approving it for recreational use in 2014.
Because, you know, really what America needs is more passive dumb people. I mean, honestly. You know what I mean?
Proving again.
That's really going to help.
King of the show, Tucker Carlson, everyone.
At 7:03 a.m.
I can't control myself. All right, so the one thing you know about Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, and the question is, you know, splits America in half, is that he really is the same. I mean, you guys know Trump. Yeah. He's the same on television as he is in person,
not everyone
as he is in his tweets. That's exactly right. In contrast to Hillary Clinton. So she's sucking up to millennials. You're so great, you young people. Here's Hillary caught on tape from a fundraiser from February saying what she really thinks about millennials. Listen.
There's just a deep desire to believe that, you know, we can have free college, free health care, that what we've done hasn't gone far enough and we just need to, you know, go as far as, Scandinavia, whatever that means. They're children of the Great Recession, and they are living in their parents' basement. If you're feeling that you're consigned to, being a barista or, some other job that doesn't pay a lot and doesn't have much of a ladder of opportunity attached to it, then the idea that maybe, just maybe, you could be part of a political revolution is pretty appealing.
And what's interesting at the end there, you could be part of a political revolution, you losers who are baristas who live in your mom's basement.
These poor baristas, what are they doing with their lives?
But she's
terrible.
not just taking a shot at millennials. My point is she's taking a shot at Bernie Sanders. So they're all smiles now on the campaign trail. They were all smiles at the Democratic convention. We're friends now. We're going to work to get millennials. But in private, she's saying, she's slamming Bernie the way the DNC emails, when they leaked out,
interesting.
they were slamming Sanders. So in private, there's a whole different
So you're either a deplorable, or you're living in your parents' basement, or you're a barista. You're just a terrible person.
So who does she really hate? Who does she reserve her most profound scorn for? People who actually believe something. So the Bernie people, whatever you think of them, I thought they were kind of flaky, but they actually believe something.
So it was a movement.
A lot of the Trump people really believe something. She hates that. The only group she's comfortable around are rich people from whom she's begging money.
Because you know what? It's interesting you say that, because later in this audio tape, Hillary Clinton says, I just don't want to overpromise because I want to be realistic.
Well, exactly.
You can't get these things done. Meanwhile, at the convention, in the debate, I'm the one who can get things done. I've been there. I've got the track record.
So smart. Such a good point.
Speaking of smart, you would think that she would be smarter than this. She's been running for office for how long? And we saw this 4 years ago with Mitt Romney at a fundraiser where, he famously said that the 47% comment.
Yeah.
We know that no matter where you are, even if you're behind closed doors or in a fundraiser, people have their phones recording all the time. You have to be aware that you always got to be thinking about what you're saying.
The Washington Free Beacon got this. Now, what they're saying on that point is that this may have emerged from another hacked email, that someone on Clinton's staff had an audio tape of the fundraiser, so they could check the record if someone said she said this or that. So even though it was private, they had the audio tape. Someone hacked the email. So it also makes you wonder what other emails are going to be hacked.
You're right. They're not denying it's false. I would just say, just for the record, she's now for free college. By the way, something that she derided. They said to me at the time in February,
this is a joke.
Yeah, you'd have to repeal the laws of math in order to do this, and now they're for it.
Well, speaking of math, there are also some new polls in the presidential race we're looking at.
And while a lot of pundits claim the first debate was a disaster for Donald Trump, new numbers show this race is still a dead heat.
That's right. Math major Garrett Tenney is live in Washington, D.C. with a handheld calculator and all the details.
Are you a math major?
Good to see you, Garrett.
I went into journalism just so that I could avoid doing that.
All of us here.
So these polls, they really get me sometimes. But one of the questions, it's interesting. When you look at these debates, we always ask, how much of an impact do these debates actually have on voters and where they stand? We're now seeing in this race, after the first presidential debate, it did move the numbers in favor of Hillary Clinton. The latest Fox News polls taken after Monday night's debate show that Clinton now has a 3-point lead over Donald Trump. That's a 2-point gain from where she was a few weeks ago. Trump is staying steady at 40%, though, and he's still within the polls' margin of error. In a head-to-head matchup, though, Clinton's lead grows to 5 points ahead of Trump, 49 to 44%. A few weeks ago, Trump was leading by 1%. Both candidates are hitting the swing states hard, where the polls continue to be very close. And at a rally last night in Michigan, Donald Trump continued to tear into Hillary Clinton for her email scandals. And he demanded President Obama not issue any pardons to Clinton or her team, though we should note none of them are currently facing any charges.
Here's a demand I'm making today to President Obama. Mr. President, will you pledge not to issue a pardon to Hillary Clinton and her co-conspirators for their many crimes against our country and against society itself?
In the key swing state of Florida, Hillary Clinton continued to go after Trump for his attacks on former Miss Universe Alicia Machado.
I mean, really, who gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning to engage in a Twitter attack against a former Miss Universe?
The Trump campaign tells us that it's now preparing some new attacks of its own on Hillary Clinton's record with women, and in particular, her treatment of women who accused her husband, former President Bill Clinton, of sexual misconduct. That's something Trump did not bring up in the first debate, but he's since hinted he may do that at the next one.
Well, he kind of did.
A week from now.
He kind of did without actually saying it.
He did it without doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Garrett.
Teddy, thanks for that. So what do these polls show us? They show us that it's still within the margin nationally. There's been some ominous movement for the Trump people in the states. But Trump can still win this race. He can also still lose.
Sure.
Will you show the cover of the New York Post this morning, which I think is America's greatest newspaper?
Donald, get off Twitter.
This kind of sums it up.
His face with tape all over it.
Duct tape.
Saying, get off Twitter. It is duct taped, as Abby says. And I think that's the point. You have Republicans kind of freaking out again, saying Donald Trump had a good run and could still have a good run, but between the debate and then, more importantly, the aftermath, this is a little reminiscent of after the conventions when he got into the fight with the Khan family. Because he was doing pretty well. That took him off track. The point is, though, he got back on track. Can he get back on track?
But you know who he's constantly done well with in the polls is independents. You look at just our most recent polling, he's still up there, 41% to Hillary Clinton at 29%. But when you talk about how people are feeling now after this debate, Tucker, we were talking last weekend about momentum. And last weekend you had Trump that was on the rise, Hillary Clinton was going down. And I mentioned this last week. I said if he brings up in any way women and their appearance, that is a very bad place for him to be. And somehow he found himself there towards the end of this debate, and there were so many ways he could have answered that question. I think that was a real problem for him.
Life expectancy in rural America has gone down, okay? The borders are totally unsecure. 2 weeks ago, the Hillary campaign made the case that anyone who wants to come to this country from anywhere in the world has a moral right to do so. That's all crazy. Nobody in America believes that other than the Hillary people. If Trump stays on the issues, he will win because the country agrees with him on the issues. They don't care about Miss America, about your dumb tweets. Stop talking about yourself, talk about the issues, and you win.
And she's dismissing voters from deplorables to the baristas on the left.
But here's the problem, you guys. I mean, you look at this poll among women, he still struggles there. 33% is where Trump is at.
Much better among
Hillary
married
Clinton,
women.
better among married women. But, all he needed to do in that moment was to say, you know what, Hillary Clinton, you really want to talk about the 80s and our past? Because I don't think you do. But if we're going to talk about women, let me talk about the women on the front row. My wife, my daughters, your daughter, about the future, about things that they care about, issues, policies that I'm going to put in place to make women's lives better. I mean, why not just say that?
Yeah, and someone who's highly respected and very polished is one of his daughters, Ivanka Trump. And so now they have her out with an ad that is pretty interesting. Watch this.
The most important job any woman can have is being a mother, and it shouldn't mean taking a pay cut. I'm Ivanka Trump, a mother, a wife, and an entrepreneur. Donald Trump understands the needs of a modern workforce. My father will change outdated labor laws so that they support women and American families. He will provide tax credits for childcare, paid maternity leave, and dependent care savings accounts. This will allow women to support their families and further their careers.
So his daughter is literally giving Dad the script for the next debate, which is talk about that.
Calling me skeptical. I think Ivanka Trump is awesome. I think running to the left of Hillary on child care is not a winner. I think the women I know who support Trump support him because they're terrified of where the country is going, and we see the spate of terror attacks, and this administration lies about
But he has a lot of those voters. If he wants to add more people.
I guess, but like everybody cares about the safety of their family, the safety of the country. We've seen 163 people killed or wounded in terror attacks this year. That's without precedent since 9/11. And the people who run the country are pretending it's not an Islamic terror problem. And everyone knows it is. He should say that.
Including
I think
President Obama.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the next.
Focus on the issues.
Yeah, which
exactly
brings us to the story about the Gold Star mom.
Yeah, this is an important story. So one Gold Star mom, she had this question for President Obama at a recent town hall. Listen.
Why do you still refuse to use the term Islamic terrorist?
Truth of the matter is that this is an issue that has been sort of manufactured, and that's a slippery slope.
Manufactured. So how did that mom feel about the president's response? She's going to join us live next with her reaction.
Hilarious. And then Saturday Night Live returns with one goal in mind: to take down Trump, because that is the job of comedy, to get Hillary elected. Are you laughing yet? We'll tell you more. Stay tuned.
Why do you still refuse to use the term Islamic terrorist?
Truth of the matter is that this is an issue that has been sort of manufactured, and that's a slippery slope. And the way we're going to win this battle is not by betraying our ideals.
During a town hall event Wednesday night, Gold Star mom Tina Houchins asked President Obama about his terror terms. So what did she think of his response? Gold Star mom of Corporal Aaron Gauthier joins us now. Tina Houchins, we really appreciate you being here with us this morning. What did you think when the president told you directly, this is just a manufactured issue?
I really didn't believe he was going to answer me. So it wasn't something that I expected an answer from. I was really upset with part of the answer he gave me, and I understood where he was coming from. And it gave me a better idea of where he was coming from with his answer hit that I knew that he wasn't going to answer.
Right. So
online.
did you see then, in fairness to the president, the broader context he was trying to put this in, that if you call it Islamic terror, that basically you're lumping all Muslims together? That's the point he's trying to make. Do you see a point there?
I saw his point, but at the same time, I feel that you're not lumping them all together, because that's like saying all people are bad. Mm-hmm. There's bad people and there are good people, and to me, you need to separate the difference. And the bottom line is my son was killed by terrorists. Mm-hmm. They were Islamic terrorists that he was killed overseas, you know, and to me, call them what they are. I mean, a murderer is a murderer.
And so getting this beyond President Obama, and we can see your son there, and we still grieve for you and your son, and thank you, not just for his service, but obviously paying the ultimate sacrifice. That's something we can never forget. And as you try to make sense of this moving forward, because you said, look, these were terrorists who killed him, you're looking at this is happening in the context, this town hall this week, of a presidential campaign that's gotten pretty nasty. And as Tucker Carlson mentioned a moment ago, we've still had a whole series of terror attacks around the world, including here on American soil, here in New York City just a couple of weeks ago. As you look at the presidential candidates, do you feel like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are addressing this, and have you endorsed anybody?
I'm not sure if they really are addressing this. It seems like right now they're more focused on other issues. To me, the whole terrorist thing, they really need to come to front and come to light with it. And they need to call it what it is. It's radical terrorist. I mean, either they're Christian, Islamic, whatever religion they may be. And I'm not saying that all people are bad, because each religion has their good and their bad. Mm-hmm. And people misconstrue their religion and take it to a whole nother level and become, you know, this radical terrorist. And that's what they are. These people are coming over into our country, and, you know, they're being allowed into America, and they're taking over our freedoms and abusing them.
Well, you're making a lot of sense this morning for us. We appreciate you being here, noting that every religion has good and bad, but we should call it what it is. We appreciate you and certainly your son's sacrifice. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tina Houchins. The FBI says Hillary Clinton was extremely careless with confidential emails. Well, it turns out one of her aides was even worse than her. What she did will absolutely stun you. Then, pick a gender. Any gender. One university telling its students you can even choose your own pronoun. So one student has just decided to crown himself king of the campus. There he is, His Majesty. Joins us live with his message and the backlash next. And a quick look at your morning headlines. The Supreme Court is set to hear a case that could impact the Washington Redskins. The High Court agreed to consider the case of Asian American rock band The Slants. They were refused a trademark because their name could be considered disparaging. The Redskins have long faced the very same scrutiny, and this case could determine their fate, according to legal experts. Meanwhile, accused Army deserter Bo Bergdahl is still going on trial. A military judge says John McCain's call for a Senate committee hearing, if Bergdahl was not punished, will not sway the prosecution. Bergdahl left his post in Afghanistan in 2009 and was captured by the Taliban. He was released after President Obama exchanged Gitmo detainees for him. Abby?
Thank you, Ed. All right, well, there is a new policy at the University of Michigan that allows students to choose their preferred pronouns to appear on the class rosters.
Yes, we've entered the post-rational phase of American history. All of this prompted one student to choose His Majesty, which he says demonstrates the ridiculous nature of the policy.
Fox News Channel campus associate and Michigan University student His Majesty Grant Strobel joins us now. Her Majesty, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence this morning.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I don't know if you didn't notice, but in any video of Schoolhouse Rock for the pronouns, they never even mention words like z or zer.
That's a great point. So walk us, for people that are just hearing this for the first time, what is going on? What is this policy? How did you hear about it? And why are you now being called Her Majesty?
Well, when I realized that the university decided to live a fantasy of allowing students to insert words that aren't even actual pronouns into the university online database that updates the rosters, I decided, well, I might as well be the king of that fantasy, and I henceforth shall be referred to as His Majesty.
So people are actually calling you that now? Like they are forced to call you that on campus now?
Yes, the policy says that if professors don't refer to students by their designated identities, then they may face sanction, which is very dangerous for our universities where we're supposed to be pursuing truth.
So what you have is the mandatory denial of biological reality. The campus's position is that gender is just a construct. Having changed a lot of diapers, I think it's actually physical. But I wonder if your fellow classmates at Michigan, the Augusta school, believe that it's not real, that it's all in your head, that gender is what you say it is. Do people buy that?
Well, plenty of students do, unfortunately, and the more and more we go down this road of political correctness at these universities, the question is where will that end? How much is the university willing to sacrifice its pursuit of truth and its mission for this fantasy land of political correctness?
So here's what the university is saying. We can pull that back up again. Here's what they say. Their policy is, they say, asking about and correctly using someone's designated pronoun is one of the most basic ways to show your respect for their identity and to cultivate an environment that respects all gender identities. You talked to the other students there. I mean, what is their reaction to all this?
Well, I've received tons of support from all across the country. And even at the university. However, I have had some students say that I am disrespectful, and that's simply not true. I love all humans. This is not out of disrespect. I just want to restore reality.
But wait a second, Grant. I mean, why not use it to your benefit? If you can be whatever you say you are, then why not apply to the University of Michigan as a female American Indian student and benefit from their affirmative action policies? Has anyone tried that? What would they say about that?
Well, Elizabeth Warren would do really well at the University of Michigan these days.
Hilarious. So good. Grant, thanks a lot this morning.
Thanks. What do you want to be called, Tugger?
I don't know. I'm Archbishop. That's always been on the list. Winner of the Victoria Cross for gallantry. Whatever. We can talk about it.
Thank you, Grant. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right. New developments about that mystery in Paradise. Police reveal how 2 American sisters died on a tropical vacation. Were they drugged?
Plus, the sound goes out during the national anthem at a high school volleyball game, but students keep the show going. We'll give you yet another reason to be a proud American, as if you needed one. That's just ahead.
And what strategy should Donald Trump take going forward, focusing on jobs or digging up past scandals? Star of the circus, Mark McKinnon and Amy Holmes, they are both here for a lively debate. That is up next.